You know, it is actually quite a thing. I just told you to put Zoom on speaker, but it is a beautiful thing to look in gallery form at who is here. Those of you that have your videos on, welcome on this most auspicious day to class number 1. I'm Heidi. I think I know a lot of you, and a lot of you are new, and I feel like we're old friends in many ways because we're all connected with this love of this beautiful, beautiful science and tool, and it's going to bring us together in community for the next 12 weeks. So in fact, by the way, every time I teach a big class, I have a friend who makes these little special cards, and Elizabeth Rayner, and I always choose 2 cards and they go together. You choose one and then you choose the second one. And what we got, and I'm going to say what we got, my friends, for the beginning of this adventure is juicy adventure, which I love. I want this to be juicy and full and playful and deep and connected. And I want us to all feel like we're evolving through what we learn together. So people are still coming in, but welcome, welcome, welcome. It is an auspicious day. And, you know, I chose the day to begin on this day, but sometimes when you arrive at a day like this, you go, oh, thank goodness I chose this day, you know, because it is the new moon of Aquarius, and it's exact at 12:53 p.m. Pacific time. So you figure it out for your time zone. And it is a day of new beginnings for community specifically. Earlier today, we were on a meditation on the luminosity community with Ellie Latrobe. She led a new moon meditation, and she said something that was so beautiful. She said, you know, under Aquarius, may we all be of service to one another. And, you know, on one hand, we're all in our little houses and our little rooms, and we're doing our thing, and we're going to learn about ourselves, and we're going to grow individually. But just showing up and learning astrology together in community, we start to be of service to one another. And because we're learning astrology, which is such a profoundly important tool as we move forward and evolve, we are being of service to those in our midst, because we are starting to see one another more scientifically, even more psychologically, and we're understanding how one another work. And so in you learning this astrology, you are becoming of greater and greater service to those in your midst. And that's a beautiful thing. So, and Aquarius, by the way, of course, is the sign that is deeply connected to astrology. And in the new age, you know, we're headed towards the new age, astrology will be the #1 science. I mean, we are going to evolve this science over hundreds of years, and it will be an incredible tool. It already is, but the momentum is growing, and you are part of that momentum. You are the forerunners, my friends. You are those that are interested in the new and interested in evolving in love and consciousness. So we're embarking on some excellent and deep group work together. Now, before we truly get underway, because there are a lot of us, what I would like to say is that if you have any needs, if you don't have your chart, if you are not understanding something, if you have a logistics issue, anything, you can direct message Erin Schleybaugh, she's a co-host, or Caitlin Mulder, okay? And they're waving at you if you are in gallery form, and they can assist you in any way. So if you suddenly notice that the time is wrong on your birth chart, or, you know, something is going wrong, please check in with them. We are all available to you with any needs or concerns in between classes. You can always write to assistant@heidirose.com, and we will be very much in touch with you. That's important to me. There are many of us, but I want this to be intimate I want you to feel held. I have Jupiter in Cancer. I want to invite you into my little astrological home and say, here's some soup and here's some good information. So, I want you to feel very welcome and taken care of. And please, please ask for what you need, and we will do well together. So I thought it might be fun just to get us going here a little bit, and just to see who's in the room, just the chat. Maybe let's just get an idea of where we're from. So just go ahead and say, I'm in Los Angeles, I'm in Germany, wherever you are. Let's just get a little sense of our worldwide community. And I always just love seeing it come in. And this is a worldwide community where there are some of us that won't be able to be in person because they're in the Philippines or they're wherever in Italy, but they will be joining us energetically after classes. And as you know, each of these classes will be recorded and they're available to you within a couple of hours after the class. So that will always be available to you. But yay, Iceland. Oh my goodness. I just happened to look down for Iceland. Beautiful. Rhode Island, California. Beautiful. Well, welcome. Welcome. And maybe just because we also have to just do this is, if you know your rising sign, if you don't worry, but if you know your rising sign, go ahead and put it in the chat as well and see if there are some doppelgangers that you've got. Look, you might check and you say, oh, Ariel's a Scorpio rising too. Ooh, they're coming in fast and furious, but you can go back through them too. Beautiful. Beautiful. And for those of you who have studied with me, or even for those of you that have been on Instagram with me, the rising sign is so paramount, and we'll spend a good amount of time talking about the rising sign because, in the astrology I practice, esoteric astrology, which I'll be sharing with you, this is the key. This is one of the great differences between traditional astrology and esoteric astrology, is the importance and prominence of the rising sign. Okay. So I have Mercury in Pisces, and we'll soon learn that Mercury is a planet of communication and a planet of how we think and how we register information and how we share information. And I'm an astrologer, but I also am a deep lover of poetry. And almost every class, I will most likely share a poem with you to begin. And this poem is a particular blessing and invitation for all of us as well. Because yes, friends, we're learning astrology. Absolutely. That's why we're here. But we're also embarking on a journey together, a journey of self-discovery, a journey of self-compassion. We're embarking on a journey where we're going to wake up to the fact that there are people around us that love what we love and that are as interested as we're interested. We're going to feel like we're walking together. It's so much more than just learning astrology, I guess, is what I want to say to you. It's an awakening of the heart and the head. It's an awakening of wisdom within you. But this poem is called Beloved is Where We Begin. And it's by Jan Richardson, who is an amazing poet and minister and artist. She's a Renaissance woman extraordinaire. And this is a poem for you, friends, as we get underway. If you would enter into the wilderness, do not begin without a blessing. Do not leave without hearing who you are, beloved, named by the one who has traveled this path before you. Do not go without letting it echo in your ears. And if you find it is hard to let it into your heart, do not despair. That is what this journey is for. I cannot promise this blessing will free you from danger, from fear, from hunger or thirst, from the scorching of sun or the fall of the night. But I can tell you that on this path there will be help. I can tell you that on this way there will be rest. I can tell you that you will know the strange graces that come to our aid only on a road such as this, that fly to meet us bearing comfort and strength, that come alongside us for no other cause than to lean themselves toward our ear and with their curious insistence whisper our name. Beloved, beloved, beloved. Beloved, you are beloved, my friends. And it's so important for you to feel that as you are embarking on a science that studies ourselves. We're going within, we're studying ourselves, we're learning about some of our, I always like to say, some of our wretchedness, you know, and some of our greatest gifts. But you're going to confront yourself in this as well. You're going to confront the places where you have been stuck for, you know, you felt like you've been stuck for ages. You're going to confront the places where you berate yourself. You're going to confront the places where you feel like, well, it's never going to change, so I may as well just get used to it, you know? And so in those moments, and you're going to confront the places too, where you say, why aren't I getting this? I wish I could learn faster. This is too much information. And in those moments, I just want you to say, beloved, 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 and let anyone else in this group whisper beloved to you, because you have help on this journey. We are beloved on this journey. We have to have tremendous self-care and care for others on this journey. So blessings, blessings as we begin, blessings as we begin our juicy adventure. So friends, I'm going to share I'm going to now offer up, let's see, I'm going to do it this way. Share the screen with you. Okay. Hopefully, now let's see. Can you see me as well in this as you're seeing the screen? Here we go. Erin, can you just tell me, are you just seeing the screen or are you seeing me as well?
I'm only just seeing you.
Only seeing me.
But I have you pinned, and let me go to gallery and see if that changes it. No, I just see you.
Okay.
Here we go. Now we start to see the screen.
Okay.
And the, you know.
Okay, there we go, friends. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
You know, just as a little truth telling, I've been teaching for many, 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 many years, and I always teach without images. You know, I'm always like, oh, here, we're going to bring up the chart, you know, occasionally, and it's mostly just me talking. And I really do feel like there are many different kinds of learners, of course. And so my dear co-collaborator, Erin Schleybaugh, has been helping me create images that also help us learn. And so I'm hopeful this will absolutely add to the richness of the experience. So again, let me just make sure we're all taken care of briefly in the course structure. I always like to start with the poem and then with the structure, but we know the classes are going to meet on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. They're 90 minutes. There will be 2 question and answers on Saturdays. So Erin will be sending you all of this after the class. So you absolutely have this in written form as well. Each class will be doing exactly this. There'll be a Q&A at the end. They'll be recorded. We'll have PDFs. And of course, we ask you not to share to respect the privacy of all of this little gathering together. You're welcome to have your video on or off. And you can put me in speaker mode. We're already all mute, which is great. And then yes, please, please, please use the chat as we go. And even if I don't address something immediately, I'll make sure that Erin or Caitlin will unmute themselves and share something with me if it's necessary or it feels important. We'll do that together. But please use the chat. Please feel interactive. You can also raise your hand and we can also unmute if it feels like too much to put in the chat. Okay. And again, you can always contact us at assistant@HeidiRose.com. There's the Capricorn moon taken care of, the structure. Okay. So we're going to be, this is a beautiful picture. Look at that picture. It's, I don't know. I always just am amazed and touched by this picture of the gigantic sun and our tiny little planet. And, you know, Pluto, you can barely see there, right? But we're all, I guess what I would like to say is we're all wanting to become our solar selves, our sun selves on this journey. And when you look at that, you see what a beautiful thing that would be if we could all become our sun selves. And sometimes when you just look at the planets as well, you learn a little bit about them. You know, for example, if you look at Jupiter, you see that it's the biggest planet outside of the sun. And in fact, Jupiter has all the qualities of abundance and hugeness, and, you know, whatever it touches, it grows. And so we even see this energy of Jupiter in its size. And then, you know, of course, Neptune, even the color of Neptune is the color of water, and Neptune is such a planet of the water and the flow and the sensitivity. And you could even say, you know, Pluto as this tiny little speck. It's tiny, but it's very slippery. I mean, it has such power, you know, and it's way out there, but it has a huge influence. And in fact, by the way, this new moon that we're having in just a couple of hours has tremendous Pluto available. And so we're entering a huge time of this new moon is a lot about transformation, a lot about breaking through and letting go so that we can let the new energy in. And I really do think of this moment as a kind of new year moment. I feel like this is one of the new years outside of January 1st today is, and then of course, when we start in Aries, it'll be like a new year moment as well. But so this is just a very small little list. We're covering more than this, but we're going to dive into the esoteric importance of the sun, the moon, and the rising. We're going to dive into the wide range in the astrological signs, from the most dense and difficult to the highest, most beautiful manifestation of the sign. And of course, we'll look at the elements, the houses. We're going to learn what those are, the planets, and all the rulers. And we're going to start to look at the dance of that as well. So this is Erin made this very sweet slide, your guide. Here I am. And I want to say this, there are many kinds of astrologers, right? There are astrologers that are medical astrologers that really practice only medical astrology. They look at the chart for health and wellness, and they look at where there may be depletions and where there may be difficulties. And, you know, Leonie Hodgson, among other things, is an amazing medical astrologer. There are political astrologers. If you're not following Elizabeth Grace online, she is and you're interested in current affairs, she's an incredible political astrologer. There are astrocartographers, you know, who look to where it's best for you to live in the world and are wonderful at helping you choose a place. One of the astrologers on our team, Jeff Hinshaw, does a lot of astrocartography. So, you know, there are many different expertises in this vast science. And it is like a doctor, you know, am I specializing in the eyes? Am I specializing in the gut? Whatever it is. So I would just say to you that my expertise is, I am a soul-centered astrologer, and I am a deeply psychological astrologer, and I'm tremendously interested in what we all have to give and how we can outgrow our closures and how we can outgrow our habitual behaviors, not just so that we can lead better lives, not just so that we can be more fulfilled, but in doing so, we give to the group, we give to the community. It's a very Leo Aquarius dance. And in my own chart, I have Leo rising. And so part of my spiritual purpose or soul purpose is to, yes, fully become who I am, but hopefully inspire that in others through this tool. You know, that is what I aim to do. That is what I hope to do. That is what I find the greatest satisfaction in. And, you know, I've worked with many, many psychologists who have gotten permission from their clients to know their clients' astrology so that they can help them break through at a quicker rate, or help them get to territory that feels lighter and you know, freer, right? So I think this is definitely, we're going to be, many psychologists will be using this tool as we progress, and that's my domain. You know, there are people that know the planets and their physical qualities and their textures and everything about them. You know, they're astronomer astrologers. That's not me, you know. So and even, you know, to just admit one's foibles or whatever lacks, sometimes I even have a difficult time picturing the whole dance of the heavens and the whole tilt and the whole turn and the whole, you know. So for me, this is a deeply psychological, spiritual understanding. And I'm imagining that if you came to me, you are likewise interested, but you will continue to evolve and, excuse me, explore other areas as well. Okay. By the way, you know, just for fun, because just to learn astrology as we go. Yes, I've spoken about the Leo rising. I also have a Capricorn moon, which loves structure and loves being on time and loves being responsible to you, and needs to learn how to lighten up throughout her life. And then, you know, I have an Aries sun, which loves this first day, loves the plunging in, loves the new beginning, loves to explore new territory with a group. So those are just a little glimmers as you begin to look at astrology. So let's look at just a couple of beautiful, beautiful quotes that I love. And, you know, my father was an astrologer. And in fact, he would so love this moment. He had the moon in Aquarius, and he gathered many, many groups over most of his life. I would say he taught for a good 50 years, and he taught astrology and cosmology and esoteric psychology. And his domain was the Alice Bailey books. But he wrote prolifically, and he passed away a year ago in February, just a couple of hours after the full moon of Aquarius. So, you know, I think he chose his exit well. But he wrote a book called Tapestry of the Gods, and this first quote is from that book, and I just love it. Each of us has a unique life purpose. There's something we must be, something we must do. Each of us is a spiritual archetype that must be expressed in time and space. It is our deepest purpose to manifest our spiritual archetype. Dad had a lot of we must do this, you know, but I do think it's such a beautiful invitation. I like to think of it as an invitation that there is this beautiful pattern that we can access, and we can become more fully ourselves. So Leonie Hodgson, again, write down her name if you want wonderful introductory astrology books and advanced astrology books. She also is prolific. She lives in New Zealand, powerful astrologer. She says simply, astrology is a science of energies. Scientists study energy and devise many ways to control and use it for human consumption. Astrologers are also scientists. The astrology energies have been studied for thousands of years by sages and yogis who observed the impact of these forces upon consciousness, on nature and life. This knowledge and its application to the personal life constitutes the foundation of modern astrology. I mean, just basically, astrology is a science of energies, and we are studying that combination of energies in our being, and we are wanting to refine those energies. A couple more. Our greatest joy, that's important. Our greatest joy and our greatest spiritual responsibility is to become who we really are, which means to fully express our spiritual archetype, our spiritual pattern, our spiritual identity. Be who you are. The goal of evolution for humanity is to become consciously and livingly aware of the nature of these energies and begin to know them and use them. And, you know, it's not just us that have unique energy patterns. Cities have unique energy patterns. There's astrology of everything, you know, everything is alive. Everything has an astrological imprint. And occultism or spirituality, spiritual astrology is just really a study, a scientific study of energy, really. And the many ways it comes together, the many ways it dances. And I love this last quote by Alan Oken. This book, by the way, was a groundbreaking book for soul-centered astrology. It was one of the first, and very well written. He passed this year as well. Interestingly, we lost two very profound astrologers this past year. The most exciting and important journey one can make is the involutionary quest of the soul and the evolutionary aspiration of the personality. When they meet, you come home. In that dwelling place, the life purpose is revealed. Knowledge becomes wisdom and love becomes a reality at last. The involutionary quest of the soul, in other words, like allowing the soul to be more and more integrated into our everyday selves. And if you want to just think of the simplest way to think about the soul, think of a dove and think of wisdom on one side and love on the other, and think of it as who you truly are, and think of our personality as this doing self in the world that wants to be more and more infused with this love and wisdom, with this dove of love wisdom. And one alone doesn't do the work. You need both wings. You need the heart and the illumined mind. So every planet has the soul aspect. Every sign has the soul aspect that we will learn about together. Good. So, as I said earlier, astrology is the great science of the New Age. And in the ancient wisdom's teachings, really, to put it another way, there is one great life. There is one great entity of which we are a part, one great being. And everything is alive, everything is alive, everything is alive. Planets and stars are alive, planets are evolving, we are alive, evolving. And everything from the smallest atom to the greatest galaxy is alive, and everything is related to everything else. And that's why we call astrology a science of relationships and cycle, because we're always looking at how things are related to one another. So even though we are this one great being, of course, we're divided into these particulate parts, and there's immense variety, but we have some similarities, like the colors of a rainbow or notes on a scale or like signs in a zodiac. We have these similarities that just get blended together in each of us in a different way, right? So that's why we start to look at one another and we're like, I recognize that person because they have that swath of Leo, they have that texture of Leo, but it might not be identical to us because theirs is mixed in with a little Gemini and spruced up with a little Scorpio, you know? So we are this great energy, we're these individuated beings within that energy, and we're all sharing certain basic energies, but they're just mixed together like a painter and the palette and the canvas in different ways. So, you know, the last thing that I'm going to say in this sort of more abstract category, because we are going to get right into the nitty gritty, is that life to life, and, you know, reincarnation, you have to look at reincarnation if you're going to look at the life of an evolving soul, and we are all evolving souls, and each life, our pattern is different, and we have different equipment each life to accomplish what we want to accomplish, and astrology is the study of that equipment, and we have to understand ourselves in terms of that energy. So bottom line, we are all here to use our unique energy pattern to evolve in consciousness and love, right? So guess what? We have been given this incredible map, right? We've been given this stunning map to work together that is our unique map, yeah? But before we get to the map, let me just, because there's one more slide here that would be good to mention. The Esoteric Astrology book is where this all springs from, a lot of the teaching that I'm going to offer you by Alice Bailey. And at one point in Esoteric Astrology, she says, you know, it's really important that we all become aware of the futility of self-interest. Now, before I, you know, of course we're interested in ourselves. Of course we're going to learn about ourselves. Of course we're going to learn about our map. We have to do that. But then at a certain point, you're like, I know enough now to awaken to the beauty of group life. I know enough now to take my little struggling working self and open it to the beauty of group life, and to choose to be responsible for someone or something. So I love these 3 points, because at a certain point, we can only do so much self-reflection and healing before we also start to integrate the community, which you're already doing by showing up in this class. And then the minute you start to learn astrology, the gorgeous thing is you get to start helping people. You get to start saying, well, let me look up your rising sign for you. Let me tell you a little bit about the highest point of your sun, your moon, you know? So you immediately actually get to take care of or uplift or encourage someone, yeah? And as we're working together, just as I said, we want our wisest and most loving self to be at work and to be governing our lives and helping others. Okay. So each of you hopefully has your own chart, right? Each of you has your natal chart that has been sent to you. And if you don't have it, you can let Caitlin or Erin know. But what's nice about this particular chart is it does have a list of all the positions, right? So it tells you that this is Mercury, and it tells you that this is Jupiter, do you know? And so I really do feel that it's a great idea to scribble on your chart. And even if you could look down here, I think it's a great idea to take a little pen and point to the Mercury and start to label those positions. But that's the beautiful thing about this chart, is you can really start to even decode it just with, you've got this little map here. But I do want to point out that this is the chart of our class beginning. So guess what? Our chart, this class is a baby. The baby was born at 11 a.m. Pacific time. This chart could be referred to for the next 12 weeks that we're together as the transits keep lighting up different parts of the chart. But this is the potential of our time together, just as your individual chart is the potential of our time, of your life. It's your map, right? So the potential of this time together, here is our new moon right there. A new moon you can see in astrology when the sun, which is the circle with the dot in it, and the moon are sitting in the exact same degree. And as you can see, the moon is moving closer to the degree of the sun. And the actual new moon will be at, yes, it'll be just in a couple of hours, as I've said. And you can see that Pluto is there as well. And Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth and the planet of transformation and the planet of the will. There's tremendous strength in Pluto. And also, you know, Pluto promises to get on in there and get the stuff out of your system that no longer serves. It clears obstruction. It brings the gunk to the surface. And so, you know, it's a very psychological planet. So here we have the sun and the moon in Aquarius, which rules group life and group creativity, and it rules the distribution of information. It's a very mental sign. And we have it in this area of the chart, which we'll be learning about, called the 10th house, which is the house of career and a certain degree of purpose, our sort of what we're here to stand in and as in the world. And so our little class its purpose is to dive deep into the Aquarian science of the New Age astrology. So this is going to serve us very well. And then we are beginning this class with Aries rising, and it's a fire sign. And Aries is the pioneer, and Aries is the one who wants to begin the new and plunge into experience. And some of you, this is a brand new thing. Some of you don't know any of the parts, and some of you know a lot. And I mean, a number of you signed up that are quite good astrologers already, but it's a return to the beginning. It's the blank slate. Do you know that Aries loves to go back again and again to the beginning? One of the things that happened just recently for me, but there was such a gift, is I found a notebook. Actually, I found about 3 notebooks that my father, when he was about 35 years old, had filled with his understanding of astrology at that time. And, you know, he went back to the very beginning and he just said, what do I know? What do I know? And in some ways for me, it was such a gift to go back to the beginning and he was an Aries as well. And to feel him, even as with all the wisdom that he had already, to go back and say, let's start afresh. What are the building blocks here? And so now I have these notebooks that are like, let's start afresh. What are the building blocks here? That it's pretty profound. Side note, there was a notebook where and I never knew this existed, he took his chart and he took the chart of all his children, and one at a time, he compared his chart to each child and did this like in-depth psychological exploration of it and spiritual exploration of it, which was just amazing. And you know, what a treasure trove, but I digress. Nonetheless, it was a beautiful thing. So we have Aries rising. So I would just say to you, friends, we are here for fire. And for those of you that have Aries rising, I've just given you a hint, friends. You are here for fire. We are here for passion, dynamism, creativity, boldness, daring mentally, diving into the new. So we are here for fire. And guess what? Aries and Aquarius together are the 2 cutting edge signs of the zodiac. They're the ones that want to explore the new frontier. They're the ones that want to launch into the new. So we together have that. And we also have a beautiful, beautiful conjunction of Venus and Saturn. They're sitting next to each other, 23 degrees and 24 degrees. And Venus is the planet of the illumined mind, and it's the planet of the soul, and it's the planet of what we value. And Saturn is the planet of discipline. So, you know, Venus is also the planet of creativity. So we could have like disciplined creativity, disciplined applied to what we value. Or we could also have the love of the group that is studying astrology. Okay, so already we're learning astrology just by looking at this chart, just by looking at the birth of this moment. We also have the planet Uranus, or Uranus, that blue H, which is the planet that rules astrology in the first house, which is a very prominent part of the chart. So we can return to this again and again, but conditions are good, friends. And we also have, you know, Mercury, the planet of communication, in a very clear sign. So what I would say is that you want to constantly be looking at what you've learned and asking questions to clarify. And I want to be giving you the information in as clear and systematic a way as I can, so that we can have building blocks. And astrology really is just an incredible science where you learn the building blocks, and then you start to play and you start to mix them together, and you start to ask yourself questions about your life. And I promise you, with your chart, you could study your chart for your entire lifetime and still not have milked all the goodness out of it, you know? So it's a gift that keeps giving every time you return to it. And on this chart, I've only listed, you know, a certain number of positions, some planets, some asteroids, some astronomical positions, but there are actually, you know, many, many more that you can put in as you advance your studies and learn more about astrology. So now we're getting into it, okay? So now what I want to say to you is this. The Earth, we position the Earth at the center of the chart. It's a geocentric chart, which we know does not, it's not the way our solar system is. We orbit around the sun, but it is a geocentric chart. So it is as if you were born right here. For example, I'm in Glendale, California. I'm born right there. The Earth is at the center. And all of these planets and positions are from the Earth's perspective, where they were the moment you were born. Okay. This is the sun, and this circle with the dot in it is the position most of us know. And the sun is obviously not at the center of this chart. It's moving around the Earth in this chart. And so let me show you another picture. The sun moves along this invisible circle called the ecliptic. Hang on. And the ecliptic, okay, okay, there we go. The ecliptic is the sun's apparent path around the Earth. And so you can see in this picture, here's the Earth, and again, like, if this doesn't make sense to you, don't worry, just let it wash over you. The other just flat map might make the most sense. But if the Earth is here and the sun is here, this is how we say to ourselves when we're born at a certain moment. We say, oh, the sun was in Aries when I was born, because along this red line, this is called the ecliptic, along this line is where all the signs are. Okay, so as the sun is apparently moving around the Earth, we are looking at where it is in the heavens, and it's a 360-degree circle. And maybe this is an easier picture to look at. Here's the earth. Here's the sun clearly shining, like maybe right at the end of Pisces. And here it's apparently moving into air, into Aries. So when we say, oh, the sun is in Aries, oh, the sun is in Taurus, that's what we're looking at. And we're also doing that with other planets as well. From the Earth's perspective, let's just say, Mars is here. What is it lined up with the moment you're born? What section of the heavens is it lined up with from where you were born? So the constellations are the backdrop all the way around. The signs are the 30-degree sections all around the ecliptic, and it's all from an Earth perspective. I'm sure there's going to be a time, and there's already astrologers that look at heliocentric astrology as well, but this is, as far as psychological astrology and soul-centered astrology, this is our best bet right now, is to put the Earth at the center. Okay. Good. So now we're just going to get really, really, like, this is your map. This is the two-dimensional picture. We're going to read this now. I gave you a glimpse of the heavens. I gave you a glimpse of the 360, or the three-dimensional, I should say. But now we're going to start to say, how do I read this chart that's in front of me? And, whenever I do a reading for people, I always, bring up the chart and I'm like, don't panic, don't worry. You're not supposed to understand this, but we are about to understand this. Okay. So there are, let's just say for now, 4 major components to reading a chart. The first is the houses, and you can see the circle. It's divided up into 12 sections, and each section of this circle is a section of the heavens, and each section represents an area of your life. It's the field of experience. It's where something happens. So for example, if your sun were shining up here, which is the 10th house, and your houses are labeled on your chart. It's not labeled here, but they're, if the sun were shining in the 10th area, I would know that there's a big shining sun, which is my personality self, hanging out in the area of the career. So the sun is shining there. So that area is going to be highlighted in my life. So the field of experience is seen in the houses, the where. I sometimes also like to say, and I actually think I have a video on YouTube that you can look up, that I also like to say that the houses are like rooms in a castle, and that this is the front door, and the first house is the entryway. And from there, you can look at the different rooms. The 4th house is the kitchen or the hearth. The 7th house might be the entryway to the bedroom. The 8th house is the bedroom. It's like, so you're going to find different images that you can use. But the first component of learning how to read your chart is to see if a particular area of your chart, a particular house, is really lit up. Is there a big attention somewhere? And already, oh my gosh, that area is important. And we're going to be labeling these areas and getting more into the heart of these areas. But the houses are enormously important. The second piece are the planets. So, the sun and the moon, they're called lights, or we sometimes include them in the planets as well. But here is the sun, and the planets are the who, like who is in these rooms, right? And they each have an archetypal energy to them. So if I go back, to this chart, every single one of these is a planet or an asteroid or an astronomical position, and they all are voices in the choir of you, and they all are archetypes. And if I were going to just be really simple about it, I would say, oh, like Mercury is the communicator, Neptune is the transcendent one, the dreamer, Uranus is the awakener. So we're going to go through those, but they play these archetypal roles in particular areas. So, for example, if I had, I'll just say if I had, well, the sun here, if we have the sun shining in the 7th house of relationship, this is the 7th house, I know that a big amount of my solar energy, my personality self, is going to be lighting up the realm of partnership. Or if my Mercury was there, I'd know that communicating with my partner is going to be enormously important. Okay, so we have the who. And then we have the signs, and you can see how you read it this way. You have the planet, and then you have the sign, and then you have the house it's in. And so in this case, we have the sun in Aquarius in the 7th house. And that's a good way to just start reading the chart, is to just be able to list those for yourself. And I'm even going to have you do that as your homework. But the sign is, it qualifies the planet. So it's like, how do you love? How do you assert yourself? How do you wake people up? And the qualities of the sign bring in that specific texture to these archetypes of the planets. You know, so if I go back again to our class, when we say to ourselves, well, how am I going to offer this information? Here's Mercury. I'm going to offer it in a Capricorn fashion, which is as clear, sober, structured, timely, serious, hopefully not too serious, right? A way as possible. And so the way to read this, and this is one of the first key things, is you start with the planet. This planet Mercury is at 8 degrees. It's at 8 degrees of Capricorn. How many degrees are there in every sign? 30 degrees. So the planet is moving along, and you're born when it's, boom, 8 degrees Capricorn. You might be born with it, boom, 9 degrees Capricorn, but this shows you where it is in the sign itself. Okay, so you want to start practicing putting together those 3 pieces: the who, the how, and the where. Okay, and please, if there are questions, put them in the chat. Then the last component, which we will only partially get to in this first journey together, is the aspects. And so all these lines at the center, these are the aspects. And by aspects, I mean relationships. These are the ways the planets communicate. And the blue lines are specifically more harmonious, okay? For example, we could say Mars, right here, this red planet, is trine, the triangle there, the moon, okay? And that is a harmonious angle. And that means they're having a great, easeful conversation, okay? And we'll get into the aspects, but like a triangle is, they're 120 degrees away. And all you need to know is that the Mars would be saying, hey, I have a lot of vitality and energy around Gemini, sharing information. You know, the Mars in Gemini wants to collect the facts, and I'm going to lend it to the group, the moon in Aquarius, you know. So we start to see how planets work together. And then the red lines they tend to bring in more creative friction. They tend to bring in a little bit more difficulty. They might not understand one another as well. They might not get along as well initially, but there are no bad aspects. They are only challenges that you get to grow in and through. Okay. And remember also that another relationship is when planets are sitting next to one another. And it's clearly a relationship because they're right there. They're sitting right next to each other. So this is another way that the planets are connected.
Heidi, there's the question of what does it mean if there's no planets in a house?
Great, thank you. So there's nothing to worry about. Almost everyone has an empty house. In that case, what you do is you look at the sign that is ruling the house. And the sign that's ruling the house is right at the edge of the house. In the lower half of the chart, it's the sign that is on the left-hand side of the house. So, here's like Leo ruling the 5th house. Here's Virgo ruling the 6th house. And then on the upper half of the chart, it's the sign on the sort of right-hand side that is ruling it. Here's Sagittarius ruling the 9th house. It just means that there isn't as deep a focus there. So what you want to first do is say, well, what areas are lit up the most? And I mean, look at what's lit up the most for us. It has the most planets and asteroids. It's the 12th house, which is the house of the great mystery, the house of the divine, our connection to the divine, our house, the house of the spiritual path. So, that makes sense that the birth of this class has a big old mystery component and a desire to understand the mysteries. There's something called transits, right? So this is the birth chart. And then of course the planets keep moving. And a transiting chart shows us where the planets are in the heavens right now and how it's lighting up this chart, okay? So that's when the empty houses get activated, because the planets keep moving, and there'll be a time in your life, there'll be a time in our life as a class that something moves through this house, right? So it's never like you're never bereft. It does, if the 5th house is empty, it doesn't mean that you will never have romance. If the 4th house is empty, it doesn't mean you will never have children. It just means that the main focus and thrust is elsewhere. Okay. We all take a deep breath. I was in a class recently that I can't remember what it was, but we were about, halfway through, and she was like, now we'll all just take 3 deep breaths. And I was like, oh, that feels so good. Just to, pause for a moment and integrate. But please, if there are other questions, feel free. So here we go. Now, what I'd like to do for our remaining time together is I would like to start to introduce some of these positions that are really key positions for you in your chart. And we're going to just, I hope some of you have it printed up. We're going to just start to label things like crazy. And I'm going to give you like a kiss around each of these positions. And I'm going to sort of introduce the pieces. And then for the whole rest of the time, we're going to be doing deep dives around all these positions. But I think it's really important that you start to get a feel for key places in your chart. And I would be remiss in esoteric astrology if I did not start with this point. So this is the rising sign. It's also called the ascendant. So I will use them interchangeably. And of course, the little symbol here, ASC, is ascendant. But the rising sign, the best way to remember the rising sign is to say, this is what is rising in me. This is what is growing in me. This is what I am cultivating. This is the place where I can live with the highest principles. This place leads me to spiritual success. And if you think of a little baby being born, and if you think of that baby maybe having some awareness or consciousness, and if you think about the possibility of an unobstructed view to the horizon line, through the hospital walls, through the birth center, to the horizon line, the idea of like something coming up over the horizon that is your calling is such a beautiful image. And like our class has Aries rising, but what do you have? What is coming up over the horizon line that is calling out to you as your greatest invitation in this lifetime. Yeah. And hopefully all of you can read the sign that is right there. But that is like, if you were thinking about a painter's palette also, somehow it's like, here's your palette. And let's just say there's a color that really wants to be used in every painting, that just keeps presenting itself, that keeps saying, use me, grow me, put me into this canvas. Like, this is the rising sign. So every reading I do, I begin with the rising sign. And a lot of people find it a great relief to hear their rising sign. A lot of people are like, I never knew that. I didn't know. No wonder. I don't feel like my sun sign. And suddenly we introduce the rising sign, and there's great relief, and there's great excitement, and there's the sense that there's something there that feels like it wants to be cultivated. So this point is enormously important. And we're going to get to this place of, what's the element of your rising sign? Is it a fire element, earth element, water, or air? And that's enormously important already. Let's point out, though, the angles, because the angles in the chart are key. And if you have a planet at an angle, and the angles are what are circled, right here, or right here, or right here, or right here. If you have a planet at an angle, it's an enormously important planet. So just note that to yourself. Oh, I see that the planet Neptune happens to be sitting right on my ascendant. That's important. For now, you can just like circle it and be like, this is important. I'll find out why later, but it is important, okay? So if this is the rising sign and what you're cultivating, this over here is called the descendant. And it has to do with relationship. It has everything to do with your relationship with others, your relationship as you walk in a room and say hello. It has to do with partnership and collaboration. And it specifically rules the area of marriage and partnership. So it's the point just before you enter the area of marriage and partnership. So this is the descendant, and again, if there are planets right there, it's going to tell you a lot about the quality of partnership that you attract, that you want to attract, the qualities that you want to grow in your primary relationship. So it's an enormously important point for how we meet the world. This is called the IC, which is the foundation of the chart. And you could think of it as the roots of your tree. You could think of it as the foundation on which you must rest. You can, it went away, hang on. There we go, it's back, I hope. You can think of it as the home life. And one of the beautiful things about esoteric astrology is when we think of home, yes, we think of our family. Yes, we think of our biological family. Yes, we think of our children. But in esoteric astrology, this is also our spiritual home. This is like the ashram. This is like, I go here to feel at home and to feel connected to my spiritual brothers and sisters. So there are traditional meanings and there are esoteric meanings, and we're going to explore them all. But if you have planets at the base of this, you will be learning a lot about your experience of your childhood, your experience of home, your experience of what you want in a spiritual home. Just a classic thing is I've seen many, many times, if people have Uranus right at the base of their chart, they're often from military families, or they often moved a lot as a child, because Uranus is the planet of movement and change. And there it is at the roots. So they're always being shaken up and changed. So that's just one tiny, tiny example. But this is the foundation. And of course, then the MC, or the midheaven, it's also called, is the career point. And it is the point of your dharma. It's the point of what you're here to give to the public, give to the world at large. And Nicole, I'm going to answer that I see is at the cusp of the fourth house. Yes. And yes, you make a good point, by the way, Nicole. Your chart may not look like this. It might be tilted on its side, right? So, it might look that way because of the way the houses are divided. So just know that the midheaven is just to the right of the 10th house. The IC is just to the left of the fourth house. And then this is pretty clear, the ascendant and the descendant. So this will tell you a lot about your work in the world. And, in our world, it'll tell us a lot about our career. But it doesn't just have to be career. It can also be what do you want, what you take responsibility for, what you parent, what you want to show up for in the world. So it's a very parental, responsible point, and it often has something to say about the quality of the work we want to do in the world. So if somebody comes to you and feels very lost around their purpose or their career, and those two can be very different, you look to the ascendant, and you also look to the sign at the midheaven that will give you even the element of it would tell you something. If it's a fire element, then you'd say, well, gosh, like this person has to be passionately, dynamically, enthusiastically, giving in the world. If it's a water sign, it might be much more like the sensitivity must be used, the compassion must be used, the depth must be used in the realm of career. So even just knowing the element of the sign at the midheaven is a big deal. Maddie, your IC and MC because the IC is just right. I'm going to show you on this chart. You can see on your own chart between 3 and 4, the line right between them is the IC, okay? And up here between 9 and 10, the line right between them is the MC. And then this is clearly the descendant and this is clearly the ascendant. So that's your IC. Like here it would be 16 degrees Cancer, 16 degrees Capricorn. Now, a few of you have an equal house. That's a little bit different. The MC is marked there for you. No, Tara, we do not all have planets at these 4 points. And in fact, some of us don't have any planets there, and that doesn't matter. I just am pointing out that if there is a planet there, it's extra juicy. And when I say a planet there, you also, we'll learn about this, but you also want to see it doesn't have to be exactly at 16 degrees. The planet could be at 14 degrees and still be conjunct the midheaven, So, but in this case, in this case, this is Pallas Athena, which is an asteroid, and it's at 14 degrees Cancer. And I know the IC for our class is 16 degrees Cancer. So that, yes, that's going to be an important position at the IC, which is kind of fun because if you think about the class, our spiritual home, let's use the fourth house as our spiritual home. Pallas Athena is the asteroid. She sprung from Zeus's head, fully armed. She is the intelligent daughter. And so it's all about information, it's all about learning something new. So that's exactly what we're doing. Okay. So those are the angles. And I'm going to point out 2 more positions right now, and then we're going to look at the elements. So the sun sign, this is the position most of us know something about already. It is the major energy flow in the life. We can sometimes call it the sun of probability. I will most probably share this energy in my life. It's my personality self. It's my doing self in the world. So wherever the sun is, the sun often actually reflects a lot about your work, your career, because it's just like, this is what I do. This is how I use my energy. It is the personality self in the world. And the moon is a lot to do with our childhood our instinctual behavior, our habitual behavior. It's a sign that we can rely on. It's a position that we can rely on, but it is not something that we necessarily want to steep in our lives. Like, we can use that energy, but we're not here to grow that energy. We're here to grow that energy in terms of like using it as the best we can and evolve it as high as we can. But we were given another assignment in this life other than the moon position. We were given the assignment of the rising sign, right? So you could say that the moon and the sun are very much in service to the rising sign. But when you start to talk about a person's past or a person's early experiences or a person's early wounds or difficulties, we can often look to the moon. And if the sun and the moon are in the same sign, Allison and Laura, that's okay. And all of these questions, yeah, what if the moon and rising sign are the same? It simply means that you were given a doubled assignment and that you were here to evolve the energy of the sign. And it's particularly interesting when the moon and the rising sign are in the same sign, because that which can hold us up or you know, be a stumbling block in the moon sign can be evolved to its highest gift in the rising sign. So a good way to think about the sun, moon, and rising sign, and this is a formula I often use and give to new students, and it's just so clear, is think of the word sure, S-U-R-E, okay? And the S stands for strengthen the rising sign. Strengthen the rising sign, okay? The U stands for use the sun. It's a good ally. Use that energy. Use the sun. The R stands for rely on the moon. This is part of you. This is so instinctually part of you. You could do this with your eyes closed. You're good at this. Rely on that. And then we're going to eliminate the tendencies that are trickier in all of those signs. We're going to try to get beyond some of the more difficult manifestations of the sign, impatience, depression, you know, reactivity, all these things, right? We're going to try to move through. Christina, you know, that's an interesting question. Does it mean anything if the time you were born and the date you were born are the same? And I think it's very cool energetically and numerologically, but astrologically, it doesn't mean anything, but it is worth exploring numerologically, I think. And Caitlin is saying sun, moon, or on the same page as yourself, inside out, and double emphasis to embody and grow the highest expression, double opportunity to release less healthy expression. Exactly, Caitlin, exactly. So, you know, some people are triple. Some people are sun, moon, rising Aquarius, sun, moon, rising Scorpio. They've really been given the journey to process through this sign from the lowest to the highest. And I'll just throw in here that when there is a lot of attention on one sign, like Taurus or Scorpio, you immediately have to think about the sign opposite it, because that sign is the other end of the stick. Like every sign has a sign opposite it that is a polarity. And so if you start to have a ton of Scorpio, you absolutely have to look to Taurus. You know, and we'll look at those oppositions, like Aries and Libra are opposite each other, Taurus and Scorpio are opposite each other, Gemini and Sagittarius, Cancer and Capricorn, Leo and Aquarius, Virgo and Pisces. So always those oppositions are very, very, very important. And, you know, Carl Jung discovered that a huge number of his clients, his patients were married to their polar opposite, which just goes to show you really need the other, you need the other. So Cancers were married to Capricorns, Taurus were married to, Scorpios. Interesting. Good. So yes, Marianne, it is important that they are both in water signs. And in fact, I'm going to use that as a transition to elements. And I want to show you, just so that by the end of today, I want you to be able to say, I am here for fire. I am here for earth. I am here for air. I am here for water. And so let's just, many of you know the elements, but let's just touch on this and not take anything for granted. And if you know this in the depths of your being, still like close your eyes and be like, what does it mean that I'm here for fire, right? So if you have Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, you are here for fire. And this is what they look like. There's Aries, there's Leo, there's Sagittarius. If you have that at the ascendant, you are here for passion, dynamism, creativity. Do you have to be careful of burnout, self-absorption, and recklessness? Yes, you do. But you are here for to burn bright, and you are here to blaze a new path. Okay, so in your own little room, be like, I'm here for fire. If you're here for fire, have your own little, yes, exactly. Have your own little special celebration. Okay. Earth, for those of you that have Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, this is what they look like, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn over at the ascendant. You are here to ground something, to manifest something, to bring practicality, to make it real and tangible. Can you get fixed or stubborn or rigid? Yes, you can. But the best of this sign is this incredible dependability, this incredible power to manifest, this solidity. Think of a sequoia, think of a redwood. Beautiful, right? You're here for that. If you have Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius at your ascendant, you are here for air. You are here to bring in a message, to communicate that message, to create relationships, to move, to exchange, to bring objectivity, to bring the power of the mind. Yes, you might scatter. Yes, you might get a little detached or removed, or you might spin. But but you are here for air. And Maddie, I am saying it in reference to the ascendant, but of course, if you have your sun sign or moon sign in these elements, take note. Yes. So it's not just the ascendant, but I'm sort of honing in on that to say, today, let's learn what element we are here for. Okay. But absolutely, you might be here for air, but you are using earth and fire, and in fact, as you're going, if you notice that your sun sign is earth, mark it. If you notice that your moon is fire, mark it, and mark what your rising sign is. And then water, friends, is if you're Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, rising sign, you are here for water. You are here to bring sensitivity, imagination, flow, compassion, understanding, depth. And yes, there might be some oversensitivity or fear or invisibility or escapism, but the highest calling of water is that profound depth and sensitivity. Okay, so I always like for you to have the image of this. I would like you to write in your notebooks for the moon position. I would like you to say, I come from, and in my case, I'm a Capricorn moon, so I would say, I come from Earth. I would like you to write, I'm living in, for your sun, I'm living in fire. I'm here, and then you write, I'm here for your rising sign. And I want you to, you're hearing a lot of information, but I want you to energetically feel into what that's like. The other day I was driving and I was like, yes, I'm a very fiery person, but if somebody asked me to say the quality that I most feel or that I come from, it's earth. I feel earthy. Like, so there's something from at the very core of me that's earth. There's something at the very core that's just like no nonsense practicality, no nonsense groundedness. So you're going to write again, I come from, or I come from earth. I'm living in fire, whatever your element is, and I'm here for whatever your element is. Okay. Erin once said this great thing where she was like, it was, I come from earth, I'm living in air, and I'm here for fire. And she said, it's like a firecracker because, you come from this amazing, the grounded earth, you zip up into the air and it's full of life, and then you explode in fire, right? So maybe you even have an image that comes to you. And I'm a big advocate of images. Triple water. Yeah. And then that, even just saying that, Madeline, is really interesting to just be like, I come from water. I'm living in water. I'm here for water. Like even just saying that teaches you something. And guess what? Elements are opposite each other too. So all water people need earth. They need to call in earth. All earth people need water. All fire people need air. All air people need fire. Okay. So you can really feel the necessity for the element opposite if you have a ton of a particular element. And if you're triple water, you better put your feet on the earth, and you better lie down on the earth, and you better, do all of that. All right, I want to fit in one more thing before we finish today. Usually, by the way, I've been answering questions as we go, but usually I will stop and just do question and answer at the end. But I want to do just a tiny bit more, as I want to do, just giving you a tiny bit more. Oh well. Okay, so another way that we look at the signs is we look at them, we divide them into what we call quadruplicities, and we just divide them into cardinal, fixed, and mutable. That's what they're called. All right. And so you have the element of the sign, like Aries is fire, but we also have this modality or quality, like how does fire exist? How does it move? So now what I want you to do is I want you to add this in. So the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. These four. And why are they cardinal? Because they start the seasons. Aries starts spring, Cancer starts summer, Libra starts fall, and Capricorn starts winter. And guess what it takes to start a season? A lot of power. So cardinal signs are initiating and bold and dynamic. They require a lot of energy. They contain a lot of energy. So I would label, if I had an Aries rising, I would say I am cardinal fire. If I had Cancer rising or Cancer sun or Cancer moon, I would say I have cardinal water in this position. Libra is cardinal air and Capricorn is cardinal earth. We'll get a little bit more specific about these, but when you're labeling, I want you to say, okay, cardinal fire, cardinal water, initiating, and use one of these words like bold water, bold fire, bold earth, or dynamic fire. Okay. So these guys are cardinal signs. Fixed signs are signs that are smack in the middle of the season. So they are fixed. They're like, I am spring, I am summer, I am autumn. They're right in the middle. They're fixed, they're grounded, they're stabilized. Sometimes they're stubborn. They're right in the middle. They do not change. They do not like to change. And you'll see this in all the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Okay, so these guys are so deeply themselves, they don't like to change a whole lot. So Taurus is fixed earth. Leo is fixed fire. That's why I like to think of Leo as like a campfire. It's right in the middle and it's burning, you know. Fixed water is Scorpio. Fixed air is Aquarius. Okay, right in the middle of the season. And then the final one is mutable. And mutable is a word for changeable. It's ever changing. It's ever moving. It's one thing and then it's another. So they are adaptable, changeable, ever moving. And the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And these are at the end of the season. So one season is dying and the next one is being born. So they're here, there, and everywhere. They're this and that. Yeah. So Gemini is mutable air. Virgo is mutable earth. Sagittarius is mutable fire, and Pisces is mutable water. These are already beautiful descriptions for just feeling these three primary positions. And Dan, yes, this is to go back to Scorpio. Yes. Is this why Scorpio stands so strong in their convictions and feelings? Yes, because they are fixed water. Absolutely. They are tenacious. That's another incredible word for Scorpio. They just do not give up, right? So what I love about these qualities is you can actually feel them in your body, right? You can be like, oh, I'm so mutable. That's why I'm always like, I can't sit still, you know, if you have, or my mind can't sit still, right? But it's also why I can talk to everyone and everything. And I can, be a chameleon, right? But I tell you what, the fixed signs, they're not going to be chameleons, right? So I can't believe how fast 90 minutes goes, but so here's what I'm going to ask for you, my friends. What I would love for you to do before Wednesday, and I'm glad we're meeting again on Wednesday because it means that we just get to like immediately continue this kind of introductory, let's get all our pieces named so that we can play with them. I would love for you to write out simply the positions in your chart. And so I would love you to write, like, my sun is in Aries in the 9th house. My moon is in blah, blah, blah in the 4th house. And if you want, I would also love for you to write the mutability, cardinal, fixed quality of your sun, moon, and rising, and the element as well. So my sun is in cardinal fire. My moon is in fixed earth. And write that, but also then just let it register a bit in your body, right? Let it, I'm going to come back to here. Let it see what it feels like to have fixed fire, and see if you can come up with some images of fixed fire. Fixed fire is a pot-bellied stove. Fixed fire is a campfire. What does mutable air feel like? Is it a windstorm, a light windstorm, is it whatever? Just come up with some images too. What we'll do right away at the beginning of next time is we will introduce the signs, the houses, and the planets, just the kisses, and then we're going to start painting together, basically. So the PDFs will be mailed out right after this class. Within a couple of hours. Give us a couple of hours because we're going to upload. Let's see. I want to answer just a couple more questions. Are the sign modes listed in our chart, the houses that the modes are in? No, I don't think they will. I think that there is a list of cardinal, fixed, and mutable, but I want you to just practice on those three. Just practice by yourself. Just label those and we'll come back to that. The rising sign is always right at the far left, Katie. Yes, it's right at the beginning of the first house. And the homework in between is exactly what I've just given you, Rashni, is I want you to just write that out. I'll give you more in-depth homework as we proceed, and you can take it or not. You can always do what you want. This is your journey. But I will thank you now. I will be on time. I will see you at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Reach out to assistant@HeidiRose.com. It's always a big deal to get underway. There's a lot to get through at the beginning, but we're gonna start moving. Okay. All right. Much love to you. Thanks for joining me. Happy new moon, 12:53. All right. Bye, friends.